One of the other things that really attracted me to using gypsum as a sulfur source was the fact that ammonium sulfate and ammonium thiosulfate are fantastic, readily available sources of sulfur. But when you're fall applying a sulfur source, if you don't have the right soil conditions, there is some potential for loss of nitrogen or loss of sulfur. Not a huge risk, but there is some that's there. The other issue is that canola utilizes sulfur throughout the growing season, and especially as it moves from that vegetative to reproductive stage, kind of in that bud bolting stage of the canola where it's going to be moving from a rosette and start producing sexual reproductive organs on the plant. And so the benefit of gypsum is that that form of sulfur is not all available at once as soon as you apply it. Instead, with moisture breaking down that gypsum, the sulfur becomes available over time, which is a perfect time frame for canola to utilize that sulfur as it's becoming available later in the growing season when it needs a significant amount of it. So that was a really attractive thing to me, that we're supplying nutrients to the crop throughout the growing season instead of just front loading everything. Canada, some of the problems we experience with acidic soils is that we have to be careful with the amount of seed place fertilizers we work with, and especially products like ammonium sulfate are extremely detrimental in the seed row, and that's exacerbated significantly with low pH soils. A lot of the other issues are an increased susceptibility to soil-borne diseases like clubroot and aphanomyces in low pH soils. That's what we found. We did some research with a company called Graymont that provided us with lime, and the Canola Council of Canada on treating clubroot patches with 10,000 pounds an acre of hydrated lime. And what we were able to find is that by treating these soils with calcium, with a lime source, we were reducing or nearly preventing the infection of clubroot in canola. So to me, it shows in our soils, and it may not necessarily be across all soil types or all portions, but in the soils that I'm working with here in central and northern Alberta that have a low pH, have low calcium levels, that have clubroot and aphanomyces issues, there's a lot of potential there for what calcium, and most importantly, as a sulfur source for crops that use sulfur, gypsum can provide in that sort of a situation to manage those soil-borne diseases. Some of the other issues that we come across is the tie-up of nutrients in those low pH soils. So there's times where you'll see phos deficiencies even though you've applied phos. How much of that aluminum is tying up that phos in your pH when you have a soil pH of 5? And so a good way to manage that is, of course, applying lime, but not everybody can afford, especially not across every acre all at once. So then ways to change cultural practices or to change fertility practices to manage your pH is to look at what nutrients are you using that are having an impact on your soil pH, and can you replace them with something that does not have an impact? And that's where ammonium sulfate is the most detrimental product that we work with on our pH. It has the most amount of acidifying effect out of all the products, out of all of your ammonium-based products.